Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great broadcasters of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. Hard to believe, at least for me. For you, it might seem longer, but this month we'll wrap up our 4th year of this podcast, and I continue to be amazed by the stories and histories involved with Capital Region Broadcasting. A real treat this month as I attempt my first interview with a morning team. These folks, however, made it very easy. After finishing their always busy and very popular morning show on number 1 rated WGNA in Albany, New York, Brian and Chrissy arranged to stay in their studio on mic and talk to me by phone, which made this interview easier and much more enjoyable than sharing a microphone in person at the Radio Split Ranch. Relax and enjoy a unique tale of 2 dedicated broadcasters who find themselves now getting the recognition they deserve as a team. Brian and Chrissy. Well, this will be the first time I'm interviewing 2 people at the same time. If you think it's fun herding cats, this should be even more fun. Okay, I've got Brian and Chrissy, they are known as Brian and Chrissy from the WGNA Morning Show. They go by Brian and Chrissy. It's Brian Cody and Chrissy Cavada. Thank you for joining me, guys. I've been wanting to talk to you for quite a while.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate
you so much.
Man. Thanks for thinking of us.
My pleasure, absolutely. And there's so much that we got to talk about. But what I usually do is kind of start at the beginning and get some background as to where folks are from and grew up. I understand you're both local folks, right?
Yes, we are. I actually grew up in Mechanicville.
Okay.
Full circle moment. I live there now.
Well, there you go.
And my son is going to the school I went to. So, yes, I'm from Mechanicville.
Yeah, well, my first address growing when I was born was Schenectady. And, gee, guess what it is now? Schenectady. So I read somewhere that the average American usually dies about within 50 miles of where they were born. Believe that or not.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. It's a crazy statistic. Yeah. So here's my thought. I'm going to have to try.
By the way, I think about dying every day when I live in the city of Albany.
Brian lives in Albany, so that's where he's
Oh, boy.
No way I ain't dying there.
Jeez. Well, in any event, we'll try to stay alive for the next few minutes here. If you hear anything, just duck. All right, Brian, you'll be fine. Anyway, my thought is I'm going to have to try to ask questions, individually and say, well, Brian, how about such and such? Because if I don't, you're both probably going to wind up talking at the same time, which you never do on the radio, I'm sure.
No. We don't. We know like eye contact. This many years in, we kind of can gauge each other, when we're going to say something.
All right. Well, let's talk about that since I know you probably weren't born a morning team. Chrissy, where did it start for you? When did you figure that maybe radio might be a fun thing to do?
How long is this show?
As long as it needs be. But, tell us about first how you worked in the White House and stuff like that. Make up some good stuff, okay?
Well, actually, my journey's different. I went to college for teaching, and I actually graduated with a teaching degree. But while I was in college on Long Island, I became the PA announcer for the sports teams.
Wow.
Yeah, my sister went to school at the same school I was. She was playing basketball on a scholarship, and I was on a soccer scholarship, but no one was announcing the games, and it was Division II. And I thought, if people are on scholarships, they need to at least have their name said.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and I was horrible, and it was awful. Then I started to have more fun with it. And as I did, the other teams wanted me to announce it. So I became the announcer of the school.
Nice.
And while I was doing a couple games, I was also an RA. And the head of housing's husband ran the radio station in town. And long and short of it is, he asked if I wanted to do an internship where I couldn't get paid and I couldn't get credits because it wasn't in my major. And I, of course, said yes.
Well, not getting paid, you're used to since then because you're in radio.
Yeah, exactly. So that morphed into, I did graduate, but it morphed into another radio station in town was hiring for a morning show, and I had no business even applying, but I did, and they liked me, and I got hired first full time at the radio station for $16,000 a year, and I was living in the Hamptons. So you tell me how that happened.
Yeah,
But-
that was fun. How did you find food? How did you buy food?
Well, I worked it out where I actually was still living on campus as an administrator on call.
There you go.
So I had an apartment and a meal plan. So it all kind of fell into place. And then from there, I picked up and moved to Florida, and I walked into a radio station and told them to hire me. I was making $7.50 an hour doing nights. Then I applied for a radio station in Buffalo. I got that job, and I worked there for 5 years doing middays. And then I moved to Portland, Maine, where I was doing middays at a classic hit station for 2 years. And then my old boss from West Palm Beach called, and he was back here in the area. He called me and he said, "How would you like to do mornings for your hometown radio station?" And I said, "Not a chance in heck." Because I just was all over the place. I didn't really want my family to be part of it. It was just kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
So after much prodding, I said yes. And that boss put Brian and I together 2 weeks before we started. I never knew him prior, but we clicked and we have amazing chemistry. And then, like they say, the rest is history.
And that was what, 2000? I always get
That was 2006.
2006.
Yep.
So you've been together since 2006. Wow. That's longer than
So that was
obviously
my
some
journey.
marriages. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Brian knows.
I've been through a couple of bad ones and breakups. Chrissy's the strongest, male-female relationship that's not my actual blood that I've ever had and that I ever will have. I'm so intertwined and interconnected with her on so many different levels. When I look at my arc of life, Chrissy will be 80% of it.
Well, and obviously it comes across. The audience feels that. They know that. That's something that you can't fake.
She's a good one.
Yeah. Good for you guys.
Yeah, and I feel that way about Brian too. I always joke and I say he's the brother I never wanted because I have two sisters. But but I mean, like, he is my brother, and I would never ever change this.
That's
because
tremendous.
we love each other so deeply, and we've been through so much stuff.
Yeah.
So he is, in 2 weeks, before we had met, I didn't even know him from anything, and now look at it.
Well, isn't that crazy? Yeah. Two radio stations later. Yeah.
20 years.
So you need to get Brian's journey too. I think.
Absolutely. Now
I'll get there.
we're getting there. Yeah, I just wanted to see if he put as many miles on his car as you did on yours. Before you got here. So Brian, you started out in Albany. Where'd you go to school in Albany?
Yeah, I went to Albany High,
Okay.
and then after Albany High, I went to Siena for 1 year as a commuter, and I didn't perform very well in college. The Friars actually came to me and said, "We, in good faith, can no longer take your money," which is awesome. I always have a lot of respect for Siena.
Nice of them.
Yeah,
Because I wasn't doing well, but the reality is, Warren, I always had a passion for radio since I was a little boy, and I can tell some stories about that, but that did contribute to my lack of, I guess, college prowess or whatever.
Wanting to go.
I would drive to Siena, sit in the parking lot and listen to Woody and Jim and Mason and Sheehan and Sean and Richie or whoever the morning show on G. And I loved radio so much that I just wanted to consume it all the time. And I didn't realize when I was sitting in the parking lot of Siena and I should have been doing my work, I was actually like listening to conversations going, can I do that? Like, is that something?
Yeah.
Can I have that kind of fun and or funny, witty interaction?
There you go.
Like, am I capable? And I thought the answer was no, but I knew I loved radio enough that once the Friars asked me to politely leave, I went to the trade school, which was at the time called the New School of Contemporary Radio.
Oh, sure. I taught there for 5 years.
Did
Wow.
you?
I did back in the early 80s. Yep.
And I was there in the very early 90s. And then, and thankfully, upon graduation, I started getting my first opportunities to actually get into radio, which led me to my job at Fly 92, which I was hired in December of 1993.
Wow.
As a part-timer. 2 years after I graduated high school, I began my radio career.
And mine started actually in my senior year of high school, between my junior and senior year of high school. But I feel you as far as the grades are concerned. I just did 1 year of school myself, 1 year of college, a great college called Graham Junior College in Boston, which is long gone, but still lives because I'm doing a podcast interviewing folks that went there in the 60s and 70s right now. Cool. Yeah, I'm doing a weekly podcast for them because I don't want the stories to disappear. Some very famous people came out of the college, and so I'm having fun doing that. But my grades in all the radio, TV, and broadcast journalism courses were terrific. But, when I had to go to Western Civ and Psychology 1 and Sociology 2 and stuff like that, no way, Jose. So after a year, I left and got back into radio. So
that was the best path for me. I needed to do something career-wise that I was actually passionate about. Sure. Radio did that. And 30 years ago, radio was so much more different than it is now.
Yeah.
I remember feeling like a celebrity, even though I was running the Casey Kasem show on Sunday morning.
Somebody's got to do it.
Whatever worked.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like a superstar in there, right?
I don't know about you guys, but perhaps in your early days of both of you starting out, are you both in the same age range, by the way? I haven't asked that question yet.
Yeah, we're about 9 months apart.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I'm the older one.
So you do remember the days of actually pushing buttons rather than mouse clicking, okay? So you're loading CD machines, and I don't know if you still played any vinyl when you first started, but
No, I had I don't know if Chrissy had carts in your first radio job.
And I had reel-to-reel for phone calls. Mm-hmm. Holy cow, was that hard.
Oh, yes.
People don't understand what that was like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did that a few times at my first go-around at WTRY, and I'd go to play it back, and I'd say, where did it go? Why isn't it there?
Right.
I had a terrible time with it.
We'd have to bring in a broom at the end of the night because you
did
so much
stuff on the back. Well,
there was all this tape everywhere.
Yeah. I had a boss in Buffalo, program director, and I was there for this is my real first gig, and we had reel-to-reel until about 2001.
Wow.
And he said to all of us, and it was a top 40 station. It was the biggest station in Buffalo. And
you can mention call letters if you want.
WKSE, it was KISS 98.5.
There you go.
And he said to all of us in a meeting, I don't care what you do, but if we do a contest, you have to get the winner on after that song you go into.
Oh.
And top 40, it's like 3.5 minute song.
Exactly, yeah.
So let me tell you what my skills were like. It was unbelievable. I had the Chinese marker or whatever it was, and then I was splicing and I was queuing it up, and I got hotlined several times from him saying, why didn't you get that on? I'm like, Dave, you have no idea, and I really got good at it because I didn't want to get yelled at.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Those were the days, though.
Now, when they finally came, when digital started coming in and they finally had some machines you could do that with digitally, it just changed everything, But reel to reel, that was fun. I interviewed somebody for the Graham podcast who was blind, and he used to teach people how to edit tape. Don't ask me how. I didn't get into how he did that, but he must have had some sort of, obviously you're listening, okay? And he's hearing where the edit goes, and then he feels where the tape is, with the head. So anyway, he was so good at it, he taught others how to do it. Yeah, go figure.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So back to you, Chrissy. You did all this running around, and now you're settling in, and when you get to fly, you've got 2 weeks to get ready to work with this guy. Did you guys do some practice stuff in the studio and that sort of thing?
I don't think we did. No, we had a big barbecue and a cookout. We had clams, steamed clams and lobster at somebody's house. I think it was the operations manager at the time because he wanted to get us all together.
Yeah, he's from Boston or whatever.
Yeah,
we'll have some lobster.
And we named our show, remember?
Yeah.
And then we named our show there. It was like the Fly Morning Rush at the time.
Yeah.
And we ate clams, and that was it. We just chatted with each other, and then boom, we were there.
They were there. Now, tell me about some of the other folks that were there at the time, because that'll help, it'll jog our memories as to what the time frame is. So who else are you working with when you first started there?
Well, we had 3 people on our show at the time.
Yeah, Jim Clark was the third member of the morning show. And did he start right when we did or no?
He was with us.
He was.
At the time because Steve was there.
That's right.
He just put all 3 of us together.
So before I was partnered up with Chrissy to do the morning show, I was doing the afternoon drive show on Fly. And I had a relationship-ish with Jim Clark, who was the traffic guy in the afternoon. But he was very much into kind of pop culture and stuff. And we were talking a lot about American Idol. And I think he and I developed a bit of a rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they put me and Chrissy together, we were like, well, we have this other individual too that can add a little bit of a different dynamic. And that worked out. And I think for like maybe a couple years, maybe two and a half years, he was with us when we first started.
3 years, and then he left.
But I feel like me and Chrissy really sort of took off as an actual team. And this is no disrespect to Jim because he was great. But when it was Brian and Chrissy,
it had to be.
I think the listeners liked and appreciated that. And that's where we I think that was sort of the ground zero for our career.
Yeah.
Sort of ascending a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Terrific.
When it was just us.
How many years at Fly together are you?
We were 10 years together at Fly.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And now we're in our 8th year here.
Yeah, at GNA. Now, that to me, that made headlines when this little switcheroo happened. So talk a little.
Yeah, it was a little one.
Yeah. talk a little bit about how that came about, Brian.
We were very happy at Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy and pretty successful too. And, Chrissy and I had been a team for 10 years and I had been there for how many years before that? I don't even know, 17. I don't know. I'd been there for a million years before that. So I was really entrenched. Like almost everything in my life was sort of associated with Fly 92.
Sure.
And I loved it. But I felt like as our morning show, Brian and Chrissy, and then because at the time we had brought in a girl named Jess too to be on the show with us, it felt like while it was good and successful, I don't know, it just felt like there was more out there, maybe a different challenge.
Okay.
But it had to be the right situation. For a few years before we accepted the position here, we had some very infrequent, but sometimes friendly interactions with other managers of other radio stations.
Okay.
And someone a few years before we actually even considered this job had kicked around the idea of us doing country, to which I think at the time, me and Chrissy were like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's great for someone else, but it might not be the best fit for us. It wasn't really part of our lifestyle.
And that's what blew my mind about the switcheroo that you pulled. It wasn't just from one station to, taking the team to another station. It was a completely different format. And that just doesn't happen very often in this crazy business, even though that is one of the crazier things.
But it wasn't like jumping from station to station wasn't really that difficult because, like, in theory, we came to GNA to kind of do the same type of show that we did on Fly.
Good.
But we soon found that, like, some things are not going to work.
Right.
Like, the music means more to country music listeners than pop music means to pop listeners.
Yes.
It's very disposable on the pop side, but in the world of country, it's very much a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So country music wasn't a part of our life when we first started. So the first thing we had to do was ingratiate ourselves, but not make it seem like we were trying too hard.
That
was tricky.
And there was some controversy at that time too. There were people being very boisterous about the fact that
without a doubt,
dare they,
hated it.
And I'll let Chrissy speak on that too, but for me, it was kind of frightening. Like our first few weeks and months on the air here were rough because of the morning show that was before us is a legendary morning show. Like it was Sean and Bethany, but before that, it was Sean and Richie. And the morning shows here had tremendous heritage. So we knew we were walking into a situation that would ultimately be really good for us, but it didn't start off that way.
I can imagine. Yeah, makes sense.
And the misconception was that we had Sean fired, which was not true.
No, that's a whole situation.
The whole perception was that, they were upset with us twofold because we were coming to country and also that we made Sean leave, which was not the truth. He actually resigned and then they pushed us up to get here. But when we got here, it was like we shot their dogs. Like they did not like us. Like the majority did not like us. But we
toughened us up, though.
It toughened us up, but we're still ourselves, right? So on the air, we've only been transparent about who we are. And that's why our show works, right? So we weren't going to pretend we were somebody else or we knew the music or we knew the artist as well as we did. We didn't do any of that. We were just ourselves. And then we actually took a lot of the mean tweets and the mean social media and we read it over classical music and read it softly to the people to hear what they really sounded like talking to us.
Chrissy's a lesbian.
Yeah, I know. We got one.
Brown is a cheater.
Yeah, one of them was like in one thing it said, Joanne from Clifton Park. Chris is a lesbian and Brian's a cheater. Why would we like that show? And I was like, oh my God, like, seriously. I mean, I'm a lesbian, but like, what does that have to do? So it got personal. It got really personal, and that's okay though, because we knew in our heart of hearts we are still the same people, and we would make this work, and we were just going to be ourselves, and that's what happened.
Well, having worked at WGNA when they signed on in 1973 through about 1985, early 86, I can tell you that they're very devoted fans. I mean, these guys would, they would walk on water for us, and they were the basis of the success of the radio station, which was nowhere near the success you guys have had since. I was very happy as program director to get us into the top 5. And
you say that though, Warren, but the industry has changed so much, and I hate saying this, but radio has probably become the 50th most important thing that people do in their day.
Yep.
Not when you started. It was television, and it was radio, and
that was it.
It was print.
And newspapers, right?
No, part of the reason why GNA is still very much connected with its listeners is because of what you all started 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Absolutely.
And you did it the right way, too.
Yeah.
You all did it the right way.
We had a general manager that actually came out of education. He was a biology professor, believe it or not, but his father-in-law was the owner of the radio station, and he passed away suddenly. And all of a sudden, the family said, well, if we're going to keep this in the family, let's make John Linstra the general manager. Well, for all the inexperience he had with radio, he knew marketing. And he wouldn't spend a lot, if anything, on advertising the first probably year that we were on the air. The reason being, he said, when we do it and people tune in, we want them to stay. And we haven't found our niche yet. When we do, when we find exactly what we want to be doing here and it's clicking, that's when we'll start spending money. And that's one of the smartest things I ever learned from somebody at that point in my career.
And when GNA first signed on, was it classic hits or today's hits? It wasn't country, though, correct?
No, it was country, but what it wasn't, unfortunately, was every country song that was out, because it was a Christian organization that ran the station, and so we played a gospel song once an hour.
With some country.
It was country, and it was the top 40. We had what we called the 45 caliber survey. It was the top 45. This is back when it was still country and western. Okay, so a lot of the logo and the motif was a western theme to it for a while. So you had the 45 caliber survey, the top 45 songs, and then plenty of classic oldies from all the way from the very early 50s, right on through the 70s where we were. So it was quite a wide array, but there were some number one country songs that were so big on cheating and drinking that we didn't play them, believe it or not. The management wouldn't let us do it. So here we are playing a country song that's talking about cheating on this woman or something, and then the next moment we're playing Hail to the Lord and all this gospel stuff mixed in. The first program director had a real tough time with that. You can listen to the stories. I did a 50th anniversary podcast with the guys that were with me when we first started, and it's a great hour and a half of the early history of the station. But so there were some challenges. Obviously, when the station got sold, and it was sold 2 or 3 times after I left there before your current management, everybody went, they got rid of the gospel stuff, and it was real, truly, country. So let's get back to you guys. You make this switch over and you're getting some blowback, but obviously it's been working ever since because, you guys just recently won a New York State Broadcasters Association award.
Thank you.
He's got a big mouth. She's got a huge heart. It's Brian and Chrissy in the morning. 107.7 GNA.
Yeah, but we got hundreds of messages from couples that wanted to have Val and Ron. All right, this message that we got was from Cam in Queensberry, and him and his girlfriend, she's Lorena, they met at a bar in Lake George. Apparently that night she was there with her sister.
Okay.
So Cam and his buddy bought them some drinks. Now he got her number, tried to text her, but didn't hear back for weeks. And he didn't realize until later that night that she barely spoke any English. She's from Colombia.
Oh.
So they finally got to talking.
See, love even breaks through language barriers. I love it.
And every time they spoke or texted, they were using either Google Translate or other things so that they could communicate with each other.
How sweet.
3 weeks later, he asked her to be his girlfriend in Spanish. They've been dating ever since August 2022, and they even got engaged on February 1st. So they're moving quick, this couple.
Holy cow, I love this one.
So this will be a Valen rhyme for Cam and Lorena Queensberry. Love Cowboy, take it away.
All right, Cam and Lorena, they met at a bar, and who would have thought they'd take it this far? They were up on Lake George, and he couldn't resist her. And if Lorena wasn't interested, well, there was always her sister. Lorena's from Colombia. They export coffee, oil, sugar, and flowers. And also hot actresses like Sofia Vergara. Shout out to Shakira, by the way. Cam became smitten, and he got her number to text. And when she didn't reply, Cam was perplexed. For a week, she blew him off, and he couldn't distinguish if she just wasn't interested or she didn't speak English. 2 years later, neither one of them's alone, thanks to Google Translate and Rosetta Stone. On February 1st, Cam and Lorena got engaged, and to think it all started on that fateful Lake George day. Some may say, already hitched, you hardly had time to court her, but they had to act quick in case ICE tried to deport her.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Yeah, her name is Nancy.
Chrissy's mom and screws up the song.
All righty, here we go. I woke up in my bed and it's raining. I regret it. He's probably infectious.
Yeah, there it is.
Probably infectious.
I can see how you might get that confused if you're Nancy.
Yeah.
Who gets everything wrong.
And I don't know where she's headed. If I'm guessing, I reckon she's probably infectious.
Kicking your day off right. You're listening to Brian and Chrissy in the morning. 107.7 GNA.
Which was a really nice, unexpected recognition. I think we've submitted for that probably every year, every time it comes up. Now, we did win something a couple of years ago. That was for an interview that we did from the New York State Broadcasters, which was a huge honor. But to get like the best morning show for New York State Broadcasters Association,
that's pretty awesome.
Huge.
That was so
and Maddie
awesome.
Jeff Maddie Jeff, of course, the brand manager / program director here at GNA and the afternoon show. He also won one. So it was really cool with all the work that the three of us put in. You know, radio isn't what it was 10, 15 years ago when it was full service, 40, 50 people working in here. It's like four of us.
That's it.
Exactly.
So like I was happy that three of us got the award.
Got an award. We were pretty happy about it.
Yeah. That's there you go. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Well, oh no, absolutely. You're and well deserved. Obviously, you guys are doing a great job. I've listened a little bit the last couple of weeks. I got to tell you,
thank you.
Just so you know, when they fired me in early 1986, I decided, well, I didn't listen to country before I worked here. I'm not going to listen to it now that I've left. And I really have not followed country music very closely. Of course, it is so big and so much more, on TV than it ever was, and in our everyday lives, that I know a lot of the artists and enjoy some of them, to be honest with you. But I'm just not the country fan that I was while I was programming the station.
Yeah, the country stars, and I feel like within the last 10 years, I mean, probably going back, but even our more mainstream everyday artists have become some of the biggest musicians in the world. I mean, you look at Luke Combs and you look at Jelly Roll and, of course, Morgan Wallen. They are as big as it gets in any industry.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, country's still hot.
Oh, absolutely.
Very, very hot right
well,
now.
That's evidenced by, again, your ratings. You guys have, the station's been a top one or two station, for the last 20, 25 years easily, right? It's just nuts, And all I remember is when I first went to the station and started working there, I had a friend of mine from my top 40 days saying, country, that'll never be a number one station. That'll never, and that was like waving a red flag in front of a bull for me. I said, well, I'll show you. And I did my darndest to make it the most, popular station I could. And it went on to be, as I say, tremendous success that you guys have helped, keep there. So that's terrific. So
great heritage station.
Well, that's nice that you recognize that, because I'm sure you still have some folks that, listened in my day, except most of them are probably dead. But, But in any event, again, the loyalty to the the station. I remember one time a guy calling me up on a Saturday night, and he's half in the bag, and he's requesting a song that I just played, and the whole thing. And he calls back a few minutes later, and he says, "You're not going to play my song?" And I said, "Sir, I'm going to change my station," And I said, "Okay, that's why your radio has a dial on it." And he didn't expect me to say that to him. And 20 minutes later, he's calling back again, saying, "Are you going to play my song?" So I mean, they're loyal. They're going to stick with you no matter what.
Yeah. They stick around.
And Warren, we see that so much too. I mean, and I feel fortunate because country music matters so much to our listeners, and that's evident by all the concerts and shows. And I mean, what other format has 15 artists come? And me and Chrissy will see 8 or 10 of the same people at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shows.
I don't know how they can do it.
Yeah, wow,
we'll see them at Jason Aldean, and then we'll see them at Thomas Rhett, and then we'll see them at Chris Stapleton, and then we'll see him at Concert on the Course, and then Secret Star. It's incredible. Like I said, it's not just people who are listening to GNA. They consume it on a whole different level.
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a responsibility to make sure that we deliver that. Sure. And one of the things that's really been helpful for me and Chrissy as we've, continued to have a bit of a, relevance in the capital region is because there's so many shows that we can be visible at. Back in the day when I was at Fly, we used to do club gigs. Well, we don't do club gigs anymore.
Right. Nobody goes out.
You don't see people out having a good time and happy hours and stuff. Like none of that stuff exists.
That's true.
It's still very strong in country, and the relationship between fans and the station is still as strong as it was when you worked here many years ago.
Well, it's all about talking to the listeners too, and being able to see them and them see us because
exactly.
Those days are over. So, and now it's all internet and stuff, but they want to see us when we're out somewhere. They come up to us, they talk to us. We love that.
Love it. Go on cruises
we
with them.
We miss that.
Really.
Yeah. We go on cruises.
Yeah. I heard
fun.
Yeah. I heard the ad for your cruise that you're doing. That's terrific.
Hey guys, it's Brian and Chrissy, and it's time for you to plan your next warm weather getaway with us. It's the Honky Tonk on the High Seas Cruise to Bermuda.
Set sail with Yankee Trails on Norwegian Cruise Line's brand new ship, the stunning Aqua, from April 25th through May 2nd, 2026. And we're bringing along some very special guests.
The Skeeter Creek Trio for an unforgettable week of music, sun, and fun. And this all-inclusive package includes open bar, meals, tips, round-trip cruise transportation to the pier, private cocktail party, and shows from Skeeter Creek.
Sail the high seas with us and book your cabin now at WGNA.com or on the GNA app.
This will be our third one.
Wow.
Our third one. We thought for the first one, I was like, Chrissy, this is a terrible idea. Who is going to want to go on a cruise with? First of all, I didn't even want to go on a cruise, so I was like negative going in. I'm like, who's going to pay their hard-earned money
to be with us?
To be with us,
trapped on a boat.
Next thing you know, there were 20 people, and then 50, and then 100, and then whatever, 130, and then we do it again, and now we're at 150, and we got another one coming, and we're pacing ahead of that. So we call them GNA Nation. And they are what fuels us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And you recognize that. Well, it's the same way with the actual artists. And you tell me, because again, I haven't been connected in so long, but back in the day, and now I'm really sounding old, when we went backstage with artists after the show and waited to talk with them and interview them and that sort of thing, they'd be out at the end of the stage signing autographs for like an hour before Loretta Lynn would finally come backstage and talk with us for a few minutes, or the Statler brothers and people like that. And the dedication they had to their fans, they obviously knew what side of the bread was buttered, and that is the bread and butter right there, is those people in the audience. Do you find that to be very similar today? Has it changed a bit? What do you think?
Oh, it's actually better, I think. It's harder though, I think, for them to stay after and sign autographs, obviously, because their fandom is huge. But they accommodate everyone, and they see your signs at the shows, and they see you waving to them, and they really try to accommodate that. The up-and-comers usually have, if we throw a show, the up-and-comers usually have a tent where they're signing autographs, where they're not as well-known as the headliner, which I love. And on our side of it, and Brian can probably speak more on this, they really appreciate country radio still to this day, and they want to make sure we know that.
I was just going to say that. And when I watch some of the award shows on TV, no other format matches country for the folks on stage saying, and thank you to the radio stations for playing our stuff. And they, they understand what's helping them be a success.
That's real.
That is so incredibly real. You know, when I was in the pop world, we would meet Ariana Grande or Demi Lovato, and it was quick. It's like no cell phones, put your phones in a box, don't look at them, keep moving,
no autographs,
don't ask any questions. If country artists could spend as much time with their fans as their management would allow, they would never perform. They would literally, like Thomas Rhett would show up at the venue and just hang out on the lawn and talk to 15,000 people at SPAC.
Yeah.
And it's the most friendly, real, eye contact, down-to-earth interaction with some of the planet's biggest music stars.
There you go.
And so we've never done an interview with an artist who was late. They're always right on time.
Nice.
They call. Whether it's something with us in studio or something with us, live at a concert or something like that, the country artists are so incredibly accommodating that, like, it's been inspiring for me and Chrissy. Like, that's why me and Chrissy will be like, well, how can we be lazy and not go talk to GNA listeners when Hardy was just hanging out with them?
Exactly.
Like, who the hell are we? You know what I mean? You can learn a lot about how to build a career by watching how country stars value not just the radio station but their fans as well. Like a true value that goes back and forth. It's actually quite nice to see.
Yeah, we
and
did
the other side of it.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Chrissy. You're the guest. You go first.
And the other side of it is too, and they do appreciate country radio. Before each show, like 90% of the time, they have something called Radio Room, where you go backstage. Just the radio people go backstage and meet all 3 or 4 of the artists in succession. They'll come back one at a time. They'll chat with you for about 15, 20 minutes about anything. They'll take pictures with you. As a radio station, they thank you for playing their music.
Nice.
And then the next one comes in. I'm talking like Thomas Rhett, Jason Aldean. I mean, the biggest of big stars. They are just like talking to me and you and like my mom. You know what I mean? Like they are just real people talking about everything from their kids to golf to anything. And that we do not take for granted. That is one of the most amazing things I feel since we've come over that we get the opportunity to do. And when people ask us, is Thomas Rhett really that nice? We can say wholeheartedly, yes. And let me tell you a story he told us, and that's the connection that not any other genre has.
That's true.
I believe.
I agree with you there. My favorite story is the Gatlin brothers from the early '80s. They were top of the top of the pops, if you want to use an old phrase. But they were quite big. Larry Gatlin walks into the SPAC green room before the show. He and his brothers, and Larry looks at my wife, who was about 8 months pregnant at the time, and looks at her and says, "I've never been in this town before in my life." And so sees this pregnant woman, and of course the room just melted,
That's hilarious.
and that's the kind of realism. I've got a picture sitting on a couch backstage at the Palace Theater with Loretta Lynn and me and another disc jockey, and we're just sitting there chatting, and she gave us a half hour just to sit there and do this after she had performed. A lot of folks I found started doing that a little before, and you say that's what's happening now for the most part.
It's awesome.
So,
wow. It does. It does happen every time.
We got 2 stories for you if you got the time.
Oh, so absolutely.
We'll start with Garth Brooks, because me and Chrissy were fortunate to meet Garth before we even started on the air here at 107.7 GNA. I think he did like 3 or 4 nights in successation at the time. It was the TU Center.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so me and Chrissy started in March of 2017.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
So so Garth must have been in Albany around that time.
Yeah, it was the weekend before we started. It was a Saturday.
So we had left Fly 92, and there was about a week or so in between where we were trying to get acclimated here at Town Square and with GNA. And so our bosses were like, well, let's go to a Garth Brooks show. We're like, yeah, of course. Now, granted, I didn't really know a whole lot about country.
But we knew Garth
we weren't ready to go on stage and introduce him.
No.
But we were given the opportunity to meet him and Trisha backstage.
Nice.
And this is how aware Garth Brooks was, even however many, 8 years ago. We're introduced to him, and he actually knew who we were before we even introduced ourselves. So he'd done his homework.
Yeah.
So we introduced ourselves as Brian and Chrissy, the morning show on 107.7 GNA. And Garth has this way of where he like shakes your hand, but he kind of brings you in too. So you know it's about to get real. He's like, yeah, I heard about you guys. Didn't you used to work over on that pop station and now you're on the country station? We're like, what? We're like,
and Trisha's sitting here like,
I'm like, what?
Trisha's like,
I'm like, I look at Chrissy. I'm like, how does he? He's like, yeah. He's like, I know. I heard all about it. He goes, you guys ready? And we're like, yeah, we've got some work to do. It's nice to meet you, sir. Thank you for talking with us. He goes, I ain't going to tell you much, but I'm going to give you one piece of advice. No matter what you do, don't ever disrespect the music. And chatted us up for a few more minutes and then went about his business.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Chrissy going, oh my God, that's all we did was make fun of Luke Bryan when we were on Fly 92.
Yes.
I'm like, we're deader than a bleeping doornail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But what was interesting was I think Garth had done his homework to the point where he knew that there were some things being said about this show before it even started on 107.7 GNA. And I could take you back to another situation where after we left Fly, we thought that somebody that we used to work with put some nasty audio out there of me and Chrissy talking bad about country artists, which we didn't really do. But taken out of context, you can make it seem like we quote unquote hate country. So before we even came to GNA, that was already swirling and circulating. So by the time we met Garth, it's very likely that he had seen some of that, and he was kind of giving us a lecture without really giving us a lecture.
Yeah, and like telling us like it is, which we appreciated.
Which was so cool because it was great advice that we obviously took to heart, but also it came from Garth freaking Brooks.
We were like, Garth Brooks told us that.
So we were scared straight a little bit by him, but that does lead to another Luke Bryan story.
Is the best story in history.
I think Chrissy should probably tell this because from her perspective, here's the quick.
You set up the email stuff.
Okay. Here's the quick setup for it because I think you'll like this, and I'm not sure that we've ever actually told this story at like great length.
Yeah, I like detail.
Okay.
Here you go.
So you know that there were some things being put out there on social media suggesting that we hate country. Now, this conveniently was being put out before we even started here. So that was our lead-in into country. Okay. Right. So we start here on GNA. We faced the firestorm from, GNA listeners that hated us and just people who are just nasty, that didn't even have an opinion. They just wanted to jump on the bandwagon. Yep. We're about 2 or 3 weeks into the job, and Matty Jeff calls me into his office to talk about something.
Now, I'm on vacation, by the way, during all of that.
Okay.
And he goes, Brian, we have to talk about something. And I'm like, okay, what? He goes, Luke Bryan.
This is so crazy.
Luke Bryan and his management team, they're a little bit upset about some of the things that they're hearing about this new GNA morning show. And I actually thought that Matty was joking.
Yeah, exactly.
But he wasn't, because he had me on a conference call with like the president of the company who also reiterated it. So I'm like dumbfounded. I'm like 2 weeks into a new job. Yeah. We haven't even gotten our feet wet. We're not even sure if we like it here. We're not even sure if we're wanted here, And now we're pissing off Luke Bryan.
Oh, God.
So it was mandated from the big boss down to me to craft an apology letter to Luke Bryan
personally
for anything that I may have done or said, and just said, listen, can we get like a clean slate here moving forward?
Wow.
And I felt like I was being scolded. It was kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm being asked to do this, and it's literally GNA's #1 artist.
Sure.
And he's got 1 million concerts planned, and he may decide to come here or not come here based upon some letter.
And he heard the audio of us making fun of him. Like Luke Bryan listened to it.
He heard
that was circulating.
Right.
So, I mean, it was personal now. And now we're like, oh no.
So I'm like, okay, let me start writing a letter. Dear Luke Bryan. Like, what do I even do?
Yeah.
So long story short, it gets crafted and sent, and I don't hear anything for about a year and a half. A few months later, Luke Bryan comes to SPAC, and because of this dissension and the perception that we don't like him, me and Chrissy are asked not to be a part of that particular radio room that year,
which was fine,
to hang out with Luke Bryan. Part of that was because the competition was there, the cat was there, GNA was there. They didn't want us all in the back room, and they just didn't want it to be a scuttlebutt. Not that it would have been, but they just tried separating us, which was completely fine. Me and Chrissy were thankful to be at a Luke Bryan concert, and we enjoyed it. And we're going about our business. But then something very different happened the next year that Luke Bryan came to town. And I'll let Chrissy tell that part of the story because it tells you everything you need to know about how likable these stars are as human beings.
So we're told again, listen, let's stay out of the radio room, with Luke Bryan. We're just going to, let sleeping dogs lie, no big deal. So we're out in the, in the pit area waiting for the show to start. And all of a sudden, now Brian had just gone to the bathroom, by the way. So it's me and our producer, Jess, standing there. And one of the other record reps for one of the other artists comes out and they said, you got to come to radio room, guys, come on. And we're like, no, we're not allowed to, because I thought that record rep was from whoever the other artist was. And she said, no, Luke Bryan sent me out to get you guys.
Wow.
And I go, oh my gosh, Brian's at the bathroom. So we wave him over. He comes running. And now we're going in, and now we're terrified because what is happening? We're getting invited to this. Now, all of the radio people are already in there, and there's probably 30 people in this small room.
Including at the time, the competition, who we're completely fine with now, but at the time it was a little bit contentious.
Very, yeah.
Because
and they knew the story, and they know what's going on.
You know, it was Sean, of course, and Sean was the previous morning show on GNA, and a lot of our former colleagues and stuff, and I felt very uneasy in that room.
Sure.
But it was unbelievable that we were welcomed in. But me and Chrissy were like the last two people in that room.
So we're the last two people in the room and literally standing in the hallway almost of this room because we're late, right? So we're standing there unassuming. We're not going to like stir the pot or anything. We're just happy to be there. Well, Luke Bryan is, telling a story and signing things and taking pictures. And the meet and greet is over. So we just are minding our own business. Well, Luke Bryan gets up to leave and he has to go by us, right? All of a sudden he starts to go by us, locks eyes with Brian, grabs his hand, pulls. Now I'm right next to Brian, so it's packed. So I see him. He pulls Brian in, leans in and goes, "Hey buddy, don't worry about all the bullshit."
Nice.
Says we're good. I get chills every time I tell this story because I heard the whole thing and I know how that felt.
Yeah.
And he goes and he smacks him on the shoulder and he leaves. And we were like,
oh, I said, Chrissy.
I actually welled up. I started crying. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Chrissy, I had tears. It was spiritual. You know how you see those ridiculous things where you're like, you will be saved.
Yeah.
You're no longer in debt. And then people start faking and they're like, I'm saved. That's crazy.
It was amazing.
When he touched my shoulder, I was
healed.
I was saved by country Jesus. and it's such a crazy thing because, and Chrissy tells it so well because we were so incredibly shocked for him to remember that moment and to make it as poignant and freeing as it was.
Yeah.
It
so
was
real.
It was just an unbelievable thing where he could have walked by me the way I walked past an ant on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I mean nothing to Luke Bryan in the grand scheme of things, but he knew that it meant something to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when he locked eyes with them, it was a really, it was a moment. And I was like, uh-oh. First I was like, oh, crap. What is he going to say? Is he going to say, how'd you get in here?
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening.
I've been waiting 2 years to kick your ass.
Meet me outside. Right? Could you imagine? Meet me after the show.
Yeah,
but it was a real moment. And from then on, it was like, it's going to be okay.
Nice.
It's going to be okay. If Luke Bryan says it's going to be okay, then we're okay.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was good.
And very much like Garth, he was aware of what was going on. Okay. He'd Yes, yeah. They do their homework, which is a little easier to do these days, obviously, with all the different ways to communicate. So, and he may have been minding his own business when people sent him this stuff to say, "Do you see what they're saying about you in this market?" And he wouldn't have known in another time. But in this day and age of the 24-hour news cycle,
It's crazy, too, because you just don't know how things are going to turn out. Obviously, whoever put that audio out there, they were trying to, they were just trying to ruffle our feathers, and it definitely worked.
Sure.
But had it not been for all that, we wouldn't have faced the adversity, and then we wouldn't have had the closure from Luke Bryan, which the closure meant more than the damage.
Yeah.
So it was actually a positive, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, my late mother-in-law always had a saying, and it's very true. Everything happens for a reason. And when
we meet people too.
Yeah. When I got fired after close to 12 years with GNA, out of the blue, first time I'd been fired in my 17-year full-time career, I was beside myself. What am I going to do? Well, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't know for a while, but it happened for a reason. It happened so that I could work in some other industries, still have fun with radio on the side, and make enough money to be retired when I retired at 65. It never would have happened in radio. I've got friends that are still in radio to this day, because retiring is just not on the table.
It does. It creates resolve. Sometimes forging a path that you would never expect, and sometimes that's the path that we need. You just don't know it at the time.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I think that strong, resilient people can take that life experience thing and turn anything into something positive. It's just that as you get older, it becomes tougher because you're just dealing with more shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot more bills.
That too. Yes. So let's not go there.
That happens also.
Yeah, let's not go there. I'm going to double back real quick here because, Brian, we didn't talk a lot about the new school where you went. Who were your teachers there? Who was your main teacher when you were going?
My main guy was Tom Hahn.
Man.
Yeah. Tom was now I went to the new school to do sports talk, but Tom, didn't matter what you went for, you were going into top 40. He tried to get everybody into top 40 radio, including me. He was like, he had this great voice. He's like, Brian, you really know sports well, but man, you would sound great playing New Kids on the Block. Have you ever tried top 40? And I'm like, no, I've never really considered top 40. But for me, that was a way into the industry. And who knew that I would be there for 25 years and then doing country for another 10 years on top of that.
Great.
But yeah, Tom Hahn, Charlie Mertz.
Yeah, I worked with both of them while I was there. They lasted there long after I did. Actually, I stopped teaching there really because I left the business and wasn't doing it at all for a couple of years. Then I went back part-time for another 35. But yeah,
Shadow Michaels, some real legends were there.
Oh,
sure.
Sure. No, it was a great place. If you get a chance, listen to Tom Brownlee's interview I did with him a couple of years back. It is hilarious. It's my most listened to podcast because
Is it really?
Yes, it is. Yeah, because, and I'm sure it's because most of the folks that went through the school wanted to hear what he had to say about, the history of the place. So it's a fun listen.
Does he know the new school's place in terms of Capital Region Radio? I mean, he must, right?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Tom Brownlee, he was the owner of the radio school.
Okay.
Yes.
He created it.
Yep.
It was his vision.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think he still knows the famous alumni
absolutely.
and stuff?
Absolutely. And he's still in touch with a lot of us as well. Of course, I didn't go to the school. I just taught there a couple of days a week. But but no, he absolutely, and he's still friends with a lot of folks that went through there and still in touch with a lot of us. And you'll just, one of the great, I was really lucky in all my working positions over the years. I worked with some great people that were very smart and very good business people, and Tom was one of them, and some other industries that I've been in. I've just been lucky to have folks that understood what we were doing and how to make us successful, and Tom was certainly right near the top of that list. Yeah.
No, Tom's the reason, Tom Brownlee's the reason why, he accepted me into the radio school. Tom Hahn pushed me to get jobs. Like, we've all had people that put us in the right situation at the right time.
Yeah.
Chrissy talked about how,
I just happened to be doing the games at
PA
school.
announcing.
I know, and he happened to be the husband.
There you
It's
go.
crazy, though. Like your path has to be perfect to get to where it is right now.
Right.
It's a series of probably 12 minor miracles.
That's exactly what it is. Yep.
Yeah, it's the people too. Like Kevin, who put us together, was in West Palm Beach. He was that program director that I just walked in and said, hire me. He's from Hoosick Falls.
So
when he saw my resume, he's like, you're from Mechanicville? I was like, yeah. And he told me, well, fast forward that, I'm 15 years, and he's now operations manager of Fly. He looks me up and says, Chrissy, come back home.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on, let that happen.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And one other thing, too, I'll add, you never know where the path is going to take you, because when Chrissy was hired at Fly, she was hired with another male co-host to take over the Fly 92 morning show. And it wasn't until he backed out, like a week before you were 2 weeks before you were supposed to start, that I was plan B. And they're like, well, let's pluck Brian from afternoons and then let's put them together. And that's how the story started 2 weeks before we were supposed to do a show together. Chrissy didn't have a partner, and I was hungry for lobster and clams. So I'm like, let's do this. Let's do this. And that's when they put us together, and the rest has been history.
Erica's the listener who's just a dang nice person. And I've been busting her chops for a couple of weeks over buying Chrissy and Jen's couch.
She's awesome.
And she probably didn't deserve some of the heat she took. But there were people that are interested in the story and have agreed that, part of the appeal is the celebrity status of the couch that she's now owns.
But I've always said, I don't think so. Please, I'm not a celebrity, and it's big deal. It's a couch.
All right, let's check in with Erica, who's way too excited about the couch that Chrissy keeps trying to pretend is just a couch. So Erica, how are things? Hi.
How's your furniture?
My furniture is fabulous.
Yeah, so tell me, how was it? How was the first weekend on the new couch?
It's wonderful. Brian, you lost out big time. We absolutely love this couch.
So the couch was as advertised. It's as firm and soft and clean as was promised. Everything was great.
It's like Brian, I don't even think they sat on this thing. It's brand new. I'm not kidding you.
We used it for 8 years, but we took care of it.
It doesn't even feel like it.
Any truth to the rumor that you went into their bedroom and was just testing out their bed just in case? Or I heard something about. No, I'm just saying I heard
we were
that.
going to sell our mattress, you mean?
Yeah, I heard that you were flopping around on the mattress just in case.
I was actually asking her about the toilet that they took out that was supposed to be Ryan's, and he got the bidet. So I was going to borrow the toilet.
That's actually a real thing, too, right? The toilet was taken out, and Ryan has a bidet.
Oh, yeah. He's had it for 5 years now.
If you wanted to take it, Brian.
Oh, okay.
Brian, because nobody's more foolish than you are.
Erica for the win.
Very well done, Erica.
The toilet.
Inquired about the toilet for you,
Do you still want it, Brian?
Because nobody's more full of it than you are. See, it always comes back to me.
Oh, that's so good.
Always.
Because she knows you can take it. That's why.
So what else do we have to conquer here, folks? I mean, how's the next few months look like? I know you've got the cruise planned again. When is that? Next spring sometime or next winter?
Yes.
Okay.
April. End of April.
Yep, end of April. Going to Bermuda for 7 days. It's going to be nice. We're going to have to do a few shows while we're on it, but who cares?
Yeah.
We're in Bermuda.
Well, I don't know how much you guys feel the same way, but almost everybody I interview for this podcast and the other one that's been in this business, I never considered it work. I never came home and plopped down and said, what a lousy day. It was always a fun challenge that I loved meeting. And sometimes I'd walk out of a studio after 5 hours and say, man, that just felt good, And so it was never work for me. And I don't know how much you guys are into that feeling, but, it's more than a paycheck.
I will say that 90% of the days that I've driven into the radio station did not feel like work. Now, that doesn't mean that when I was driving home, I didn't feel like I got my ass kicked.
Or trained beyond belief,
but,
right.
Sometimes the hard part with our job can be the hours, but it's never prevented me from feeling unhappy driving into the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
I get excited about something that we're going to do every single day.
Nice.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Every day.
And every job has its downs, or we don't like something about a job. But with this job, there's very few
nice
that. And you know, I complain sometimes about, oh my gosh, we have to go see Thomas Rhett at SPAC on a Thursday night. I'm not going to get home till 11 and I got to get up at 3:30. And I'm telling that to like my sister, who's a pediatric dentist and working 14-hour days, and she's sedating children for a living. Wow. And I'm like, okay, I got to stop. I got to stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a bad life. Yeah. So what's coming up this summer? What concerts can we look forward to? Other events that you guys are involved with?
Well, okay, so let's see. We're in July.
Right.
So what would be the next one?
Shania Twain is coming. July 20th at SPAC.
Yeah.
And then a concert, another show at SPAC will be Little Big Town. And then we're excited. August 14th, this is like a GNA concert at Joe Bruno Stadium, and it stars the Eli Young Band and Tyler Hubbard, who, of course, is one half of Florida Georgia Line, and he does all the FGL hits.
Wow.
That's going to be a great show.
And then there'll be a few more shows. Scotticoke Fair's got a show and a few other things kicking around. And that'll keep us busy through the rest of the summer for sure.
Nice. Well, you guys are on a roll, and I'm loving it, and I love the stories. You have plenty to tell, and really revealing again about the industry that you're in, and especially the genre that you're in. The format. And I want to thank you for sharing that. It's just terrific to hear the success you've turned this into, and I wish you best luck going forward.
Well, thank you
so much
for allowing us to tell our story, and I'm glad we won that dang award, Chrissy, because now people are interested in us again.
Thanks for reaching out, though, too. We really do appreciate it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, my pleasure. What I'm trying to do with this podcast, I'm getting help from MySci in Schenectady. They are archiving these interviews so that there's a history. There is a history that is there, and it's a living history because it's the people that lived this business from the early '60s right on through today. And so you guys are a nice little icing on the cake here for somebody that's currently doing.
Thank you for doing that, Warren, because I've often thought that I've always felt like radio was probably one of the worst archived mediums of the television, print, and then obviously radio. There's so many lost shows and so many great broadcasters and all these things. But, television, everything is archived on a reel.
Yeah.
Print is print,
newspaper print, microfiche or whatever.
Exactly.
But like radio, sometimes it felt like it may have just vanished into thin air.
Yep.
And I hope that's not the case. And I love that you're doing something to preserve it. So thank you.
No,
maybe someday in 40 or 50 years, our kids, our grandkids,
somebody would want to hear this.
Exactly.
From the year 2025.
Yeah.
I love that you did that. Thank you for doing that.
No, absolutely.
Awesome.
My pleasure. And again, I do appreciate the time that you took today after, working as hard as you have already this morning. So thanks again. Take care, you guys.
The easiest part of our day, brother.
The best part of our day.
Radio Split Ranch.
Some real talent and real people right there. It makes me proud to be part of the heritage of WGNA, knowing it's in such great hands with today's generation of entertainers. Congrats again to Brian and Chrissy for their New York State Broadcasters Award for the Best Medium Market Morning Show. You can tell it's well-deserved. So this week's time travel in the career of Chris Warren, to wrap up, has to be an example of what the morning show on WGNA sounded like for a time when I had the pleasure of getting up at 4 a.m. and trying to put a smile on your face from 6 to 9 a.m., at 107.7. We're going back more than 40 years to my 32nd birthday, actually, July 25th, 1984, with a great support team from the news and sports departments and the voice of the previously mentioned Tom Brownlee doing some of the drop-ins and introductions each hour. Try not to fall asleep during this flashback while I figure out how to get you back here next month for another interesting interview. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Chris Warren.
Hello? Oh, there it is. I knew the music was coming up eventually here. Just hang in with us 5 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's a Wednesday morning, Chris, on the 25th of July. 107.7 FM Country GNA from 1982. Ronnie Millsap and He Got You. 6:08 on a Wednesday morning, 59 and mostly sunny. Going to be a nice one today. Humidity's down a little bit, high about 80. Sounds good. Here are the Kendalls with Emmylou Harris. 107.7 FM Country, GNA. Emmylou Harris, of course, helping out the Kendalls and My Baby's Gone. She'll be in town at the Berkshire Mountains Bluegrass Festival this Saturday. Not too bad. 11 and a half after 6:59 on the outside. Sunshine with Chris on the inside. And I heard CK mention a few moments ago Michael Jackson. And you might not know this, but CK kind of has an image similar to Michael Jackson. You know how Michael only wears one glove? Well, CK only wears one sock. 107.7 FM Country, GNA, Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and the Long Hard Road. 6:16. A Wednesday with Chris. In Eastern League action last night, Albany Colonnades won again. 10-2 beat the Nashville Pirates. Glen Sox beat the Reading Phillies 11-7. In the majors, Red Sox and Mets were winners. Yankees Expos losers. 107.7 FM Country, GNA. 6:19, a Wednesday morning, 25th of July is here with sunshine, 59 degrees, and Lynn Anderson.
I see it in the papers, no love at all.
FM Country, GNA, Lynn Anderson, no love at all. Some gold bullet music for you. And about 21 minutes after 6 o'clock now, a Wednesday with Chris, and we'll check the full forecast for you here in just a couple of moments. Not a bad one at all for the next couple of days. Perfect for our moonlight cruise tonight on Lake George. Hey, what's more exciting than the brand new Crossgates Mall in Guilderland? Well, how about a live broadcast by GNA at the new Crossgates Mall in Guilderland? That's what. This Saturday from 11 to 3, Rocky Shannon and CK. It's around here somewhere. GNA's overnight host will be broadcasting live, and the GNA Cowgirls will be there. That's why CK goes. Free popcorn. That's why Rocky goes. Free balloons, free pony rides for all our little friends across great northeastern America. And, of course, Rocky and CK will just have a lot of fun for you. That's this Saturday at the Crossgates Mall. Another live remote broadcast from FM Country, GNA. There's only one.
Traditional, member FDIC, and an equal housing lender.
Morning, Perth, your FM Country weather forecast calling for a mostly sunny day today. High about 80. Fair, cool overnight, low 55 to 60, and then turning cloudy with a chance of an afternoon shower tomorrow and a high about 75. Not bad. Sunshine, 59 at FM Country.
WGNA. You move me just as much.
107.7 FM Country, GNA. Eddie Raven and I could use another you. 6:26 with Chris. Stick around a little later on this morning. The Roses sing You Gotta Stop and Smell Mac Davis. It's a biggie. It's a brand new single. Speaking of the man, here he is from earlier this year. Most of all,
I like 7 degrees. Chris?
We found a way to replace you on the front lawn. We no longer need you to mow the lawn here at the station. The Army has come up with an automated, self-propelled, self-fueling, self-replacing lawnmower. They're at several installations, including Fort, Are you trying to do an imitation of something? It's a poor imitation. Anyway, they're being used in Fort Dix in Jersey and Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia, and they're called the GOAT, as in nannies and billies and kids and stuff like that. The main limitation is that goats can only be used in areas that are fenced in, which is the problem we had with you.
GNA.
FM Country, GNA, Danny O'Keefe, and the original Good Time Charlie's Got the Blues from back in 1972. Leon Russell's got a version of that just out. 23 minutes before 7 o'clock with Chris.
Hi, this is Bob Kingsley, and every week you can...
107.7 FM Country, GNA. Tom Paul and the Glazer Brothers from 1968. How you doing in Ames this morning? Got your FM Country weather forecast calling for a sunny day today. High 80. Fair, cool overnight, 55 to 60. Even cooler up on the lake on the boat, so dress warmly tonight. And then a cloudy day tomorrow. Chance of afternoon showers. High 75. Right now, sunshine, 59.
WGNA.
107.7 FM Country, GNA. 17 and a half now, shy of 7 o'clock. 59, sunshine. Expect a gorgeous one in great northeastern America. Here are the Whites. 107.7 FM Country, GNA. Razzie Bailey from 82, and Love's Gonna Fall here tonight. 11 before 7 o'clock tonight. Oh, lots of fun tonight. Giveaways for our Country Moonlight Cruise tonight on Lake George aboard the Mohican of the Lake George Steamboat Company include tickets to the Saratoga County Fair. That's going on right now and will be going on through the weekend. The TNT Championship Hot Rod Pull at Lebanon Valley. That is next Monday and Tuesday out of the Valley. The Hunter Country Music Festival, of course, coming up in a couple of weeks here. And the Osmond Brothers at the Coliseum Museum. They're here starting tonight, and we'll be here through the weekend. So we've got tickets for all those events. We'll be giving away to you if you're on board, or we could be giving it away to you if you're on board. Feel lucky today? All right, so we hope you'll be there tonight for all the fun, and you can buy tickets right up until the time we sail, as long as they last. All right, they're $8.25 for adults, $4.25 for children, and if you're under 3, you can sail free. You can even sit on my lap.
Oh, baby, get the milk.
1077 FM Country GNA. Ronnie McDowell, and I got a million of them from his album Willing. It is 6:30 now before 7 o'clock, and welcome to a Wednesday with Chris and Mickey Gilley.
I'm the one mama wants you back.
1077 FM Country GNA. Some good fiddling and banjo picking there at the end. Mickey Gilley from his album Too Good to Stop Now. There's one called I'm the One Mama Warned You About. Wednesday morning, July 25th is here, and I'm here too. I'll be here till 9 o'clock. My name is Chris Warren. We do this every morning between 6 and 9 a.m. because my wife doesn't like me to, sleep late in the morning. So I come in here and do this thing instead. 59 on the outside. We'll update the temperature and all the news and weather and that good stuff in just 3 minutes from right now. Doug LaRock has it at 7. Here's Charlie Pride with The Power of Love.
Of America, here's Chris Warren.
Why, thank you, and a good morning to you. 6 minutes after 7 o'clock.
Hi, this is John Conley. Thanks for listening to Albany's stereo country music station, GNA. There's only one.
1077 FM Country GNA, and now she can't say that anymore. John Conley from 1980. 9 minutes after 7 o'clock, 50. It's probably better than 59 now, isn't it? I wasn't listening when Doug gave the new temperature. I apologize. I'll go into him right now, bow down, and see if I can get it for you. 1077 FM Country GNA. T.G. Shepherd, Somewhere Down the Line from his album Slow Burn. 7:14 on a Wednesday morning with Chris, 25th of July. And here's the man who believes the Russians boycotted the Olympics just to avoid Howard Cosell.
Might not be a bad idea. That you mention it, yes. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing just fine.
Did you get your lottery ticket yet?
No, boy, you get in line and you have
$20 million.
Have to be there all day if you go in line.
If you win that tonight, if you won $20 million tonight, would you be in tomorrow morning?
Oh, gee, that's a tough question.
Be still hard. 20, can you imagine?
I don't know if I'd live through the night. I'd go out and party like I've never partied before.
It certainly would be nice to try.
Oh, yeah. Well,
speaking of the lottery and the money, Denny Crum, the Louisville basketball coach, if he signed a new contract yesterday, and if he stays there 10 more years, they guarantee him $1 million bonus. Now, there's an incentive you don't get every day.
That's true, too.
Do we get a bonus for being here? No.
I've been here 10 years. Can't I get a bonus like that?
$1 million bonus. I mean, these small things, $100,000 things like you usually get. Throw those out the window.
$1 million bonus if he'll stay 10 more years. Boy, I'll tell you, he's going to watch his health real quick.
You bet your life. Anyway, getting back to local sports. In the Eastern League last night, the Albany A's won again, 10-2 over Nashua, and Glens Falls took over sole possession of second place with an 11-7 victory over the Reading Phillies.
And the race gets hotter.
It gets hotter. It's good. It's exciting when your two local teams are 1-2. In the majors last night, your team won again. The Red Sox 3-2 over the White Sox, and that young pitching staff still continues to win.
All right.
As does the New York Mets, and their pitching wasn't too good last night, but it was enough to beat the Cardinals 9-8 in 10 innings. Other local things, if you're interested, the Expos got dumped by Pittsburgh and the Yankees. Took it on the chin to Milwaukee in 10 innings, 11
innings. You can't win them all.
That's what George is saying.
Yes.
As he pulls his hair out.
We'll see it about a half hour. I thought his hair was getting thinner.
Yes, it is. We'll see it about a half hour.
All right, sounds good. 45, and of course, the morning sports line, a half an hour from now. Rick James. Thank you, sir. Here's the Bellamy's Forget About Me. 1077 FM Country GNA. Mama Bellamy's Boys, the Bellamy Brothers, and Forget About Me from the album Restless. 19 minutes after 7 o'clock with Chris. We were talking about the Albany Colony A's just a few moments ago. They are winning and a beautiful streak going, #1 in the Eastern League. And the fun part is that the Glens Falls White Sox are right behind them now. If they're still there a month from now, we're going to have some fun for you. Even if they're not 1-2 a month from now, you know it's going to be a good game. Albany Colony A's against the Glens Falls White Sox on August 21st at GNA night at Heritage Park. Not only that, but a slugfest between the GNA it's Cowboys, and a team of the Albany Colony politicians and public figures, similar to the team we tied last year in our GNA night at Heritage Park. We tied it 4-4 last year. This year, we have to have a clear-cut winner somehow. No more of this politicking around here. We've got a lot of prizes we'll be giving away during the game, and we'd love to have you with us. If your nonprofit group or charity would like free tickets to GNA night at Heritage Park, Tuesday, August 21st, send us your request on your organization's letterhead to to WGNA, Box 1077, Albany 12201, and we'll send you a block of tickets, all right? But you got to be a nonprofit group or charity, and you should send the request in as soon as you can so we can kind of plan ahead here. GNA, Box 1077, Albany, New York 12201, and we'll see you there August 21st, Tuesday night, Heritage Park, GNA night.
It's an
County Fair. It's country fun for everyone.
Morning, Austerlitzer FM country weather forecast. Mostly sunny today, high about 80. Fair, cool overnight, 55 to 60. We'll sleep well. Turning cloudy with a chance of an afternoon shower tomorrow, and a high in the mid-70s right now. Sunshine, breezy, 60 degrees at FM Country. Yeah, Ricky Skaggs on FM Country GNA, moving you home every weekday afternoon with John Hart. He'll be here this afternoon. Actually, a little early at noon today.
We were tickets on tonight.
1077 FM Country GNA with a special More Gold weekend starting this Friday night at 7 o'clock. It was 20 years ago next week that Jim Reeves tragically killed in a plane crash. But his music lives on, and he'll be under the spotlight this weekend on the More Gold weekend on FM Country GNA. There's only one. Here's Mel Tillis to 7:30 News Headlines with Doug.
Now and then. But it'll turn cloudy. A bit of a chance of an afternoon shower tomorrow. It hadn't better rain in our ball game in East Field.
No, wouldn't do that.
High tomorrow in the middle 70s. The Media All-Stars play Rosie Black and the Queen Inner Court before the Glens Falls White Sox Reading Phillies.
This lady's pitched like 7,000 winners or something. I mean, and only lost 5 or something.
I have faced her.
Oh, have you?
Yes. About 8 years ago on a fast pitch all-star team.
Mm-hmm.
She struck me out from second base.
Yes. Well, next time, turn your back on her. Maybe you'll do better. You never know. What, 60 degrees outside now?
60 and sunny.
Sunny. Going to be a nice day. Nice evening for our boat cruise. You're going to be up there tonight, aren't you?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to join us.
Nope.
Well, I'll be there, meaning that you'll have to do my show tomorrow morning. Because, man, we get back in the dock at 10. By the time we finish partying and get back here, we'll be, well, just about time to go on the air.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize this, but do you know that the world's first test tube baby is 6 years old today? 6 years since Louise Brown was born in Lancashire, England.
And that test tube, never mind.
Yeah,
I had a bad joke coming.
Bad joke, and you're not going to use it. That's good. But there have been hundreds born since then, and you can tell them apart from the rest of the general population. They tend to be a little glassy-eyed at times.
GNA.
No.
All kinds.
I should have told mine.
24 hours a day in stereo.
1077 FM Country GNA and Let It Shine. Olivia from 1976. I don't know why I say these things on the radio. I suppose it's because it wouldn't be as much fun saying them to myself in the men's room.
The Auto Race FM Country GNA. There's only one.
Sponsored in part by Flynn's Auto Parts. 2 locations, East Main Street and Cobleskill 333 2nd Avenue, Troy. Flynn's Auto Parts. Let's go back. 1958, Charlie Walker. 1077 FM Country GNA. Pick me up on your way down. Some music that goes back further than we'd like to remember. How you doing, West Rutland, Vermont? Your FM Country weather forecast. Mostly sunny today. High about 80. Fair, cool overnight. We're going down to 55, 60 or so. And then a cloudier day tomorrow. There's a chance of some afternoon showers and a high in the mid-70s. Right now, sunshine, breezy, 60 degrees. 1077 FM Country GNA with an invitation to the annual media race at the Saratoga Track Open House this Sunday. You'll see our own CK, John Stanley, and Gail Tyner on board horses, yes, during a special horse race against other media personalities. Sunday at 2 at Thoroughly Thoroughbred, Saratoga. Hello there. 1077 FM Country GNA also plays the harmonica real good. Shoeshine Man, the T, Tom T. Hall from 1970. 7.5 now before 8 o'clock. 1077 FM Country GNA. Couple before 8. Doug LaRock with news next. Here's Eddie Rabbit.
Now, sunshine, 63 degrees. For the Northeast News Watch, I'm Doug LaRock.
With the music of America, here's Chris Warren.
Good morning. It is 6 minutes after 8 o'clock. Wednesday, 25th of July. As you heard Doug mention, 63, sunshine. What a gorgeous day. Here's Janie Fricke from just last year. 1077 FM Country GNA 809 with Chris McGilly, Charlie McLean. We all got the right stuff. 1077 FM Country GNA, Mick Gilly, Charlie McLean from their album It Takes Believers, 812 with Chris. Hey, how about this for a lineup of great country entertainment? The Country Express, the Chrissy White Band, Aged in the Hills, Dixie,
the get-togethers, no, not Doug Low Rock, no, sitting here pointing to himself. Be sure to join these great groups. NGNA's own country gentleman, Chad Good, he's going to storm out of here and slam the door. Why do they do this to me? Chad Good with all that great country entertainment this Sunday, July 29th at St. Michael's Community Center. That's on Linden Street Extension in Cohoes. We'll be broadcasting live from 2 to 6, and it's going to be a great show. Rocky D Productions putting it together. You can call for some more information after 6 o'clock tonight, 237-9916. That's 237-9916 after 6 o'clock this evening. Get some more details on all that. It's for a good cause. 8:13 with Chris on a Wednesday morning, 25th of July with Lee Greenwood. And God bless the USA. Hear, hear. 107.7 FM Country GNA. In Eastern League baseball action last night, Albany Colony A's victorious again, beat the Nashville Pirates 10-2. Glen Sox beat Reading 11-7. In the majors, Red Sox, Mets winners, Yankees exposed losers. Here's Merle.
Let's change.
107.7 FM Country GNA. A Wednesday morning, 25th of July, 63, mostly sunny. We're going up to 80 today. Going to be nice. Here's Billy Joe Spears from 79. Living our love together. 107.7 FM Country GNA, 21 minutes after 8 o'clock. And welcome to a Wednesday with Chris. Glad to have you along.
Tradition 86600.
How you doing this morning in Margaretville? Got your FM Country weather forecast. Calling for a mostly sunny day today. You'll love it. High about 80. Fair, cool overnight. Low 55 to 60. Then it'll turn cloudy. There's a chance of some afternoon showers tomorrow. High in the mid-70s. We'll worry about that tomorrow. Sunny, breezy, 63. 107.7 FM Country GNA. Dolly from earlier this year going downtown on your place in the country. Got the weekend fun from Linda Webster. Saturday nights at 7 and Sundays from 10 till 3. She's got great weekend entertainment for you. And you get a chance to meet her tonight. She'll be on our boat cruise along with our newest member of the GNA family, Sharon Wells, who's on Saturday nights at midnight. We'll see you on the boat cruise tonight at 8.
In the middle 70s, although it might rain on my little bit of escapades in Glens Falls, but the boat ride.
Boat rides this evening. The escapades in Glens Falls. You want to talk about those?
Well, no. We did last hour. I don't.
Those. I thought you were talking about something different, completely different.
No.
This is the softball you're talking about tomorrow night. Yes, against the Queen in her court.
Yes.
That should be fun.
You're going sailing.
Sailing tonight, yes. We'll be up on Lake George. I mentioned earlier we're going to be throwing CK overboard halfway out. That'll be the entertainment for the evening. Should be fun.
Or in CK's case, he'll hit me.
No, you better not. Be nice to the man. He does work here all night, and he's the one that has the button that lets you in the building in the morning.
GNA, all kinds of country, 24 hours a day.
107.7 FM Country, GNA. John Fogerty and the Blue Ridge Rangers from back in 73 in Hearts of Stone. 24 before 9 o'clock. Walt Adams coming in at 9 this morning. That's when we get the boom in here and raise the microphone to the ceiling and raise the ceiling just a little bit. He fits in here, but feel some adjustments are needed. GNA 1969 with Bill Anderson. How you doing this morning in Margaretville? We said hi to Margaretville. Let's say hi to Hudson. Got your FM Country weather forecast. Calls for a sunny day today. High 80. Fair, cool overnight. Low 55 to 60. Tomorrow, clouding up, chance of showers, high 75. 63 now.
WGNA.
There she is. I knew she was here somewhere. 20 minutes before 9 o'clock. And the number one song this week on the 45 caliber survey belongs to Janie Freaky, If the Fall Don't Get You. 107.7 FM Country GNA. With Rex Allen Jr. to take us up to sports at 45. Dream on, Texas ladies. 107.7 FM Country GNA. Somebody's knocking. By request for Gloversville this morning. Thanks for your calls on the Country Connection, 283-4800. Terry Gibbs, of course. She'll be part of the Hunter Country Music Festival coming up in about a week, a little over a week now. That's closing in real quick. We want to mention, in fact, a week from tomorrow, now that I think about it, we do want to mention we do have some more tickets to give away to the Hunter Country Music Festival. We'll be doing that tonight on board the Mohican on our Country Moonlight Cruise. Not only tickets for Hunter, but also tickets for the Saratoga County Fair happening this week, the TNT Championship Hot Rod Pull at Lebanon Valley Speedway next week, and the Osmond Brothers, who are in town starting tonight at the Coliseum Theater. By the way, they'll be in our studios with us in the next couple of days, so be listening for that announcement. That'll be some fun. Well, we hope you'll join us at tonight's Moonlight Cruise, our second one of the season. John Hart will be your host, and a host of us hope to be there as well. I know I will be with my wife, and as I mentioned earlier, Linda Webster's planning on dropping by, along with Sharon Wells, and let's see who else. I know some other folks from the station will be there. I think Walt's going. We'll have to ask Walt when he gets in if he's going to be able to make it tonight. In any event, we'll see you tonight. Should be some fun. A couple hours on the lake with whitewater. Not bad, huh? GNA, George Strait, let's fall to pieces together. Here's where the country is this weekend. Public service of GNA Friday and Saturday. Chrissy White Band at the Nashville North Saratoga. Steve Bart, Ramblin' Fever at the Loft in Cropseyville. Aged in the Hills, Snuffy's, Cambridge. Guy Russell and Northbound with MC John Hart at Mary's Claverack Restaurant, Claverack. Also Friday and Saturday, Denny Nash, the Silver Dollar Band at the Silver Dollar Latham. Custom Country at Happy's Coach House, New Salem. Jerry Mackey at the Adirondack Paradise, Pine Lake, New York, Friday and Saturday. John Beglia, Country Lovin' at DJ's in Wingdale. Mike Warren at the Ground Round in the Mohawk Mall, Schenectady. The Colt 45 Band will be at a Country and Western Lounge, that's in Holyoke, Mass. Dixie at Ron's Country in Dwaynesburg, and Marty Wendell's 84 Tour Band, of course, with Marty, at Broncos in New Windsor, Connecticut. That's that new place that just opened up doing super business. We got Walt Adams coming up next at 9, and he'll check out where the country is some more for Saturday and Sunday, so stick around for that. He'll do that just before noontime, and he will be on the trip with us tonight, so we'll both see you there. He's the taller of the two of us, okay? Have a nice one. Catch you tonight on Lake George.